So Schedule C is going to say, is he are they married or single? So that is also one of the points, because we know that in the state of Texas, being a common law state, if you are married, regardless if that was your money, regardless if you don't believe that the women should have rights to it, they have rights, and vice versa. The only thing that we allow for is if I was single when I bought the house that I rent out, and now I've married, but my husband and I did never live there, then we will allow in that case, in that scenario. But if my husband and I lived at that property, even if I bought it before I was married, instantly he has rights to it, and we will require him to divest of his rights. It doesn't mean that he's owed any money. That's not what we get involved in, but it does mean that he has to come and sign on the deed. Okay, and then number 8 will tell you there was nothing found. So in hecho, this is a very clean title. No issues, no liens on here. All we're asking is if he's married, and so we're good. Okay, yeah. Then on the Schedule D, it's just our information, who our shareholders are, who are officers of the company, what other companies we are actually under. And just so you'll know, we are under a brand or an umbrella of different companies. So Chicago Title, Alamo Title, Lawyers Title, Fidelity Title, and Allegiance Title. We are all under the same umbrella. So the same little house is all of those 5 different brands. We are all underwritten by Fidelity. And so that's the brands. Whereas, for example, you can go and close like at Radican. They're not a direct underwriter, so they may be able to use one of our underwriters to insure title. They're what we call an agency. They agency for our underwriter, and we're a direct. Okay, so that's what's on Schedule C.
What about the other Schedule C? Because it shows like divorce and it shows...
Yeah, you went into the other one. So let's go look at this other one. The one that does not have a stamp. So the one that has the stamp, just so that we'll know, this is what we call clear. It's clean. No hay problema. There's no issues with it. These are the ones we love, love, love. But we know that this is what we sometimes get. So same thing, y'all. So on the other title commitment, you get our wire fraud form, you get our jacket with the signatures of the officers, and then we skedaddle over to Schedule A. We see a guy by the name of Gregory owns this property, and he hopefully matches. We see that who's buying an owner's policy for $120,000 is some type of LLC up there on Schedule A, Schedule A 1A. Then we go over to Schedule B. All looks like it's okay. Down at the bottom, there's a utility easement. We're saying. Then Schedule C. Okay.
So do you guys send it to everyone and say, hey, call me, there's a lot to go over? Or do you just say, hey, look at it and we have to look at it?
So Amanda and I, and it is a policy that I created for our office, is that you will receive from your closer what we call the closer's notes. So you will receive from me, from Amanda, an overview of what's on the title commitment. So we're going to tell you, hey, Marisol, on yours, I see a tax deed, I see 2 tax deeds, I see 10 city liens, I see a judgment, I see this, right? It's just for your information. This is not at any time anything that you need to fix. This is what our job is to do. But we tell you, and then in your email is also the buyer's agent, that all of us are aware. Okay, so then we're not getting this, well, you never told me. No, I did. Maybe you didn't read it. But I gave you an overview of what is on Schedule B. So then Elizabeth and Gabby are steady calling that seller and saying, hey, seller, we need your help, we need your help. If by one day we do not get a hold of them, we're calling you and saying, hey, can you tell your seller to call us? We need to talk to him. And it's important, y'all, because listen, they don't know us yet. They've met with you. They met with y'all's beautiful faces, and they have sat with y'all, and they trust you, and they have built a relationship with you. We're the ones that are over the phone like, ¿y el divorcio? right? So they don't trust us. They don't know who we are. We could be the ex, right? So we need your help in just telling them, hey, there's gonna be a lady named Maria or her assistant, Gabby, because now you guys are meeting names and meeting people. Gabby or Elizabeth, they're gonna be calling you. They need you to give them the information. If they want to say, oh, I'll give it to you. No. You have to give it to them directly because they're the ones that are going to insure the title. Give it to them directly. Why directly, y'all? Because it will be helpful that things don't get lost in the communication. And a lot of times when you're in the middle, I know you guys are busy driving, moving, looking at this, and one little detail could be missed, and then I'm asking them, and now all of a sudden they're upset. Yo le dije a Marisol. But tell me, so that I can know. So really important, send them our way. Okay, so on Schedule C, we see that Mr. Gregory here, on number 6, because remember 1 through 5 is promulgated. Number 6 says there is a tax deed of trust. A tax deed of trust means that he owes taxes and he borrowed money to pay those taxes, $38,000. On number 7, another, and how you know that these are different is because of the years. Look at the one, number 6 is dated January 14, 2023. But then number 7 for $54,000 is dated January 14, 2025. Then number 8, it says, as a disclosure, a foreclosure does not get rid of those. Because then a lot of times they think, oh, it's just going to go on foreclosure and then I'm going to get my buyer and he's going to go buy it over at the foreclosure auction and it'll be all clear. Remember, anything federal, y'all, does not matter. It sticks to the property, okay? Then, also, on number 9, it says, wait, we see more tax suits against Rives, which is the buyer or the seller on that property?
I don't know. We didn't get last
I
names.
know. We had to write out some of the stuff, but then I write it out too much. But I think it's the seller.
I left the same, what you see there, I left the same on the front, on Schedule A, so that you can see who it belongs to.
No, you told me Gregory. But
I don't think Gregory is
It's
the
buyer.
idea.
The buyer, what's the buyer?
Yeah, the
It
buyer
has to be
is Varelas.
sellers.
Varelas. So it's got to be the seller. So the seller right here shows that there's more tax liens. It also shows that the Rives on number 10 owes $5,000 in child support. Then we're also checking on number 11. What's his marital status? Why? Because there was only one person in the front document, right? Then we see over on number 12 that the previous deed needed to correct. If you look at the reason down at the bottom, it says reason to correct the plat and full legal description. He got a deed to a property, and it seems to be this property, but there was no legal description to it. Then on number 13, we see that we need to obtain more information about a Sanders because there's something that hit on a name search. Then number 14, we need information about the LLC. But wait, there's more. On number 15, something happened with Gregory because a Narcedalia is in the mix. So Narcedalia, we need to see who is she? What happened? Where did she go? So then we go to our bullet points, which is the 16 and whatever. So this one is what we call a jacked up title commitment, right? So this is when I'm calling and saying, listen girl, those 3 days that you said that we were gonna close, we're gonna wait a little bit. Because now we got some problems. So this will require me to have a very deep, intimate conversation with
So
this.
what if, like, after all this, he doesn't net anything, then he doesn't lose out?
Okay, so this is why it's important for when you do your listing consultation, you dig without being too chismosa. You gotta dig in, are you married? Oh, do you have any loans? Y'all, they know what they signed.
Yeah.
They may not know how it looks like now, but they know what they signed. And tell them, the report is gonna pull everything.
Right.
So this is where you're telling them up front. And of course, part of your commitment to them is saying, hey, you're committing to me to sell this property. I'm gonna bring you a buyer. We're gonna go under contract. And that is not just paper that you're just putting your little signature on. That is a commitment, that is a contract, law binding document. So it's not, oh, I changed my, never mind. It's not that. Because now all of a sudden we have to have a conversation and say, no, you went under contract.
Right.
You didn't have the money because you didn't tell me, then that's a problem. Now, also, with federal liens, y'all, there's no surprise on federal liens. They send you letters all day long. So federal liens, now what may be a surprise is Kohl's. For some reason, Kohl's does not pay. Don't owe Kohl's any money, because they will come up on your properties. So maybe Kohl's, they didn't know that they owed $1,500. Okay, Kohl's, you didn't know. But you definitely know any federal liens, because the feds don't play right. So I would have that conversation with them, and if when you get this title commitment and you see that it has all this stuff, you want me to do another little net sheet based on just this number so I can give you a hard number to look at, let me know. And I will put that together for you so you can tell that seller, hey, you don't cooperate, you're only gonna make $200 off this deal. But you're only gonna make it, because you can't get out of that contract, because that contract is a law-binding contract. So it's not I changed my mind. It's, this is what you're gonna owe. Or, a lot of times too, y'all, on judgments, on child support, and on some federal tax liens, they are negotiable. So what will happen is, like on this child support. On the child support, if he has been making payments, but this is what he was behind on, a seller can negotiate for them to give us a partial release. Meaning, and it's all at the discretion of that company. It's not at the discretion of me. It's not at the discretion of the agent. It is at the discretion of the feds. So if he has been making payments, I have seen it where they owed like $20,000, but he had been making payments for the last 5 years, and they gave me a partial release. It did not take away his debt, but they allowed him to sell the property because of his payment history. And she gave me my partial release, and I was able to move along, right? Because all I want them to do is, you don't have to take it off of the person's name, but you do have to take it off of the property, because I got to tell so-and-so that he has free and clear title. So it is sometimes that can happen, but I don't negotiate for them. That's one thing to remember, y'all. We do not represent neither party. I don't represent the seller, nor do I represent the buyer. I am a neutral third party. You represent your client. That was that nice listing agreement or the buyer's rep agreement that you signed. You're telling them, I'm committing to representing you. So you've committed, but I don't sign such document because I'm neutral. So I cannot negotiate. It is against my fiduciary duty to negotiate. But I will tell you how to do it. That is not a problem with me. I will tell you all the ins and outs on how to do it, but I just cannot do it on your behalf. Okay? So, this Gregory, we have some conversations due with Mr. Gregory here. We got to figure out what he did with Narcedalia. I don't know what he did with her, but we need her. We need to know what's going on, because there's something on there. Then we need to figure out. And here's the deal, y'all. If you look at this is, and it's just because I've been in the business long enough, these liens are being taken out in January when we know taxes are going to be due January 31st. The one in 2023 was for $39,000, and then the one for 2025 was $54,000. My assumption in my head is that they included the 39 into the 54, so that there's actually just one lien due or one amount due, not both of those amounts. But that is just my assumption of my 23 years being in this business. It's not always the case. Maybe homeboy did take, 2 different loans. I don't know, but that's what I'm saying. If you need a hard number to look at, and then all of a sudden when you start telling them, hey, those liens came up, then they start remembering, see, but it was for this, and now I only owe this amount. All of a sudden, the amnesia wears off. But it is other issues that we have to resolve with in here. So, all of this, y'all, pertains our assistants are working at these every day. So, we're doing everything we can. But if we get a seller, for a while we had nurses are really hard, because then they work nights when we're asleep, and then they are asleep when we're awake. So then what do, right? So then I would tell them, okay, and then we do take a lunch break here from 12 to 1, just so that we can recargar ourselves with food before we have to hit it again. But if you tell me, hey, the only time she's awake or the only break she gets is from 12 to 1, let me know. So that way I can call them during my lunch hour or during the time that the phones are on night, and we can still get it resolved. We are certainly able to work with you and do what we can, because our goal is to get these deals done. This is not a scary deal. It looks scary, but it is absolutely a manageable deal. This is easy. But it requires a lot of, like, the seller to commit to work with us. So, that's Schedule C. We talked about Schedule D. All right, so in the claims, in the things that we always see as something that's gonna always pop up is a deadly discovery. We discovered maybe Nancy Daria is dead. Shoot, but the divorce was incomplete. You know, until that divorce is complete, you're still married. We've actually changed our forms.
What's the process of?
Let me tell you this first. In the state of Texas, you are only recognized as married or unmarried. Complicated is not one. Neither is I don't like him anymore. Neither is he took off with my best friend. It does not matter. Are you married or unmarried? And you are married until death do you part. And not even then. Or a divorce decree is signed by the judge. Okay? So you are married until then. Okay? You can say, well,
Just in case if they're in the process and.
you are still married.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying.
You would want to time your transaction to finish
Finish.
after the divorce
Yes.
decree.
Yeah.
Because you are married
What's
until
the
then.
process? Is it like filing for divorce and then you wait?
You file for
to see the
divorce.
judge and then they sign?
And then they sign. Once that judge signs, then you are divorced. Then you are unmarried. Because divorce is not even an option for us
But the
anymore.
property gets discussed within the divorce?
Yes, we hope.
Okay.
We hope, yes. So it is very important. Those are the options. So when you go and you ask somebody, ¿Es usted casado o no casado? Don't say divorciado, don't say none of that, because none of that matters. Because they're gonna tell you, oh, I'm divorcing. Then you are still married. So we need to make sure that those are very clear. I totally respect if you're divorcing, but you're not divorced yet. And so that automatically means you are still married, and that person needs to come. And for the lending side, I'm gonna tell you, I have had the most awkward closings of my whole life when it's the husband, the new girlfriend, and the wife. And I call them all of those names because that is truly how they are. It's the wife, it's the husband, and the girlfriend. And they have had to come. Why? Because, he was divorcing, and he was getting a new house, para la novia, but the wife still needed to come in. And that lender did not tell me, and it was so awkward, because I didn't know who all my players were, and things got real touchy in there. It was weird, y'all. If I was that wife, I wouldn't have come in, but. All right, so the just sign your name. The just sign your name is how we have a claims discussion is, I just signed my name to this. I don't know if I really own it. I just signed my name to it. Those have claims implications. So you want to make sure that your seller understands what they're signing. And after they've signed, it's too late for them to say, I didn't understand. You've signed. So especially with those, another part that we have seen is when they do those DPAs. Okay, DPAs, y'all. I know it's gonna be a little hard with the lender here, but DPAs can be tricky, y'all, because a lot of times as a buyer, you think it's free money. Pues me dieron el dinero for the down payment. But really what it is that it's this thing called extended time. That later you pay for it, but you didn't realize that when you signed it because you were excited that you were buying the house, you were excited to get the keys, you were excited that you were only bringing $1,000 to the table. All of which is fine, but you have to understand that normally down payment assistance, there are some forgivable ones, but most of them are that you pay them when you pay off the house, either by sale or by refinance. So a lot of times, especially during COVID, you remember COVID? When the government told us that we could just do a forbearance and we didn't have to pay our houses, and a lot of people were like, yeah, I don't want to pay my house. And then all they did was they attached those 6 months worth of payments you didn't pay, and then they did this second lien that you signed. They didn't care because you were in COVID, and you were probably had COVID, and you were signing it. And so then what happens? Now, I'm at closing. Now you want to sell your house because now you have some little equity in there, and you want to get another house. Now you're like, what do you mean I owe 12,000 more than what my statement says? Because that became a little silent second lien that you put on the house. So, very important that it's not just we sign your name. Number 3, who owns the property? Y'all, a lot of times we get into these discussions about married people, we get discussions in deceased people. Oh, but it was my house, and that person, when they died, they knew it wasn't their house. Doesn't matter, y'all. We have to figure out those questions. Who owns this property? And then swimming in the pit, it's the debts. So a lot of times, like this guy, if he doesn't remember that he actually took out 2 tax liens, he has that child support lien, he has, other possible liens, well, he's swimming in this pit. He's in there. So now we just have to figure out creative ways to get him to still close the property because he's in a law-binding agreement, and be happy with how it's going to turn out. So those are claims discussions that a lot of times, at your level, because we're the ones that are insuring title, it's uncomfortable conversations that we have to have. But I just want to, thank you in advance for always talking to your clients and saying, hey, Maria's not the enemy. Listen, y'all, I am not going to report him to the child support. I don't do any of that. If he put a pool and didn't get a permit, I'm not the police. I'm not going to report it. I am not the enemy, but I do need information. We do need to get that for them.
I do have a question for name changes. How does that go?
Okay, so for name changes, that's important. And we have had several of these have issues. So for me, let me give you the example for me. My name is Maria Belen Gonzalez. Legally, that is my name. I go by Rodriguez because I am married, have been happily so for 25 years. But I don't carry legally my husband's last name. I am still Gonzalez. And so when I take title to a house, my name is Gonzalez. So I come and I present myself as Gonzalez. But if I was to, so then let me backtrack a little bit. I became a citizen in 2019 with my name, Gonzalez. But had I become a citizen, had I changed my name, because I've been married 25 years, but I only became a citizen 6 years ago. If I had changed my name, but all of my IDs prior to this only had Gonzalez, how do I prove, now I became a citizen with Rodriguez, that I was ever Gonzalez? Well, I would have to pull out an old ID, right? So when you do those name changes, you can, but you have to prove that you were one and the same with Gonzalez and now you're Rodriguez. We see that a lot in married, if you were, we have now a lot of when they're becoming, when they're engaged and they go ahead and they buy a house and then they get married and then they switch their name and then at closing, I have them as Smith, but now they're Johnson. Well, how can I join the 2 names? They have to, and a marriage license does not count, just so you know. It has to have a picture ID. So they have to pull out an old ID so that I can make sure that they are one and the same along with their marriage ID.
Does it matter if the ID is expired?
It doesn't matter for the old name.
Okay.
I cannot accept one for the actual notarization. Yeah. So that identity, and then also take in mind, y'all, most lenders are now adding the significant others, even when they're not legally married. But if they gave some sort of money, gift funds, I have seen where, before it was stricter, right? Before it didn't matter. If you were not married, you were not going to go on that deed. But now I have seen where it's become more lenient, where they are seen, where the couples. But what happens when couples who are not committed yet in marriage and don't have that legal binding paper, they break up? All of a sudden, pues ella ya se fue, right? Or él ya se fue. And now you have a missing person that you're like, oh, but we weren't married. But you attach them to the deed. And now they have interest. So, it's just making sure that like I said, all of our players are in the game when you go to list that property. And it's always a good habit, check the tax rolls. The tax rolls 95% of the time match the correct name. But if there's not a name, or if you see a name that is not the same, also y'all, on a side note, I have seen some fraudulent stuff with the juniors. So let's say, for example, my husband's name is Valentin Rodriguez Jr., but his dad's name is Valentin Rodriguez. Valentin Rodriguez Jr. tried to sell Valentin Rodriguez's house, not mine, I'm just giving you the example. That's important. If their ID says Junior, the deed has to say Junior. We have to figure out why they didn't say Junior.
So the dad.
The dad's house. Because the dad was put into a home and he just thought it was easier. The dad wasn't against it, but I'm like, no, man, that's not how we do things. You cannot take advantage of your names being the same. And then we required that Junior. And so that was when we discovered, he was like, well, that's my dad, but I'm selling the property. I'm like, oh. So, in that
Great, that closed that day for sure.
that's not closed that day. But it did close, because we did get it
Right.
Yeah. Okay, and that's it. Do y'all have any questions for me on title commitments?
I have one last question. I think Noreen, you had asked about lender policy and then title policy and the difference between those. I don't know if y'all can both discuss.
So simultaneously, we issue a an owner's policy with a lender policy. If you have a mortgage, if you have a hard money loan, if you have a private loan, most of all those people will want to also have an insurability on their investment. So we issue those simultaneously. Your contract though says that the seller.
That's the title,
So it's
lending.
owners and lenders policy.
Yes,
Two
it's
policies that you
owners
pay.
and lenders.
Okay.
It's two different policies. One insures the seller, the other one
Yeah,
insures
'cause
the
my
lender.
client was asked to pay for the title lender policy.
Correct. In a contract, when you're signing a contract and you see who pays for